Sign it, Alison. Just sign the damn papers. Jacob slammed the divorce documents on our kitchen table for the 10th time in 3 years. The same lawyer's letterhead, the same cold legal language, the same inevitable outcome that never came. I didn't look up from my morning coffee. Steam rose between us like a barrier I'd built brick by brick with each rejection. "Good morning to you too, husband." He grabbed his tie, yanking it straight with the practiced motion of a man who'd perfected the art of walking away. "Don't call me that. We both know this marriage is over." "Then, why are you still here?" I finally met his eyes, brown eyes that once looked at me like I hung the moon. Now they held nothing but irritation and barely concealed disgust. "Because you keep refusing to sign. Victoria's getting tired of waiting." Victoria. His precious Victoria with her perfectly straight blonde hair and trust fund smile. His college sweetheart who came crawling back 2 months after our wedding, suddenly single and suddenly interested in my husband again. I stood slowly smoothing my robe. "Let me get this straight. You want me to divorce you so you can marry the woman you've been cheating with for 3 years? It's not cheating when our marriage is dead." "Our marriage isn't dead, Jacob. You just stopped trying to save it." He laughed bitterly. "Save it? Alison, you live in a fantasy. We haven't been happy in years." The words hit like they always did, but I'd learned to absorb them without flinching. 3 years of this dance had taught me resilience I never knew I possessed. I wasn't unhappy until she showed up. Victoria didn't ruin anything. She just made me realize what I was missing. I picked up the papers, flipping through pages I could recite from memory. Irreconcilable differences, division of assets, custody arrangements for children we didn't have. What you were missing was someone who inherited $10 million when her daddy died last year. His jaw clenched. This isn't about money. Isn't it? Funny how your love for Victoria coincided perfectly with her inheritance. You're being ridiculous. I set the papers down and walked to the window. Our backyard looked peaceful in the morning light. The garden I'd planted. The fence Jacob built during our 2nd year of marriage when we still talked about having kids someday. I built a life with you, Jacob. I put you through law school, working double shifts at the diner. I supported your dreams, your ambitions, your ridiculous idea to start your own firm. And I'm grateful. No, you're not. I turned back to face him. You're embarrassed. The successful lawyer with the waitress wife. Victoria fits better in your new world. His silence confirmed what I already knew. She's pregnant. The words dropped like stones in still water. Ripples of shock, then anger, then something deeper I couldn't name. Congratulations. He flinched at my calm tone. Alison, how far along? 4 months. 4 months. While he was bringing me roses and promising to work on our marriage, while we were going to therapy twice a week, while I was stupidly, desperately hoping we could find our way back to each other. Does she know about the other 9 times you've tried to divorce me? She knows our marriage is complicated. Complicated, I tasted the word. Is that what we're calling it now? Jacob ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. I can't keep doing this, Alison. I can't keep pretending we have something worth saving. Then stop pretending. Stop bringing me flowers on Fridays. Stop holding my hand during movies. Stop making love to me like you mean it when you're planning your escape the next morning. His face reddened. That's not fair. Fair? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been telling me 3 years ago that you wanted out instead of stringing me along while you figured out your feelings for another woman. I was trying to make it work. No, you were trying to have both, the devoted wife at home and the exciting mistress on the side. The best of both worlds until she got pregnant and forced your hand. He grabbed his briefcase, jaw tight with frustration. I'm filing whether you sign or not. My lawyer says we can proceed without your consent after a separation period. Your lawyer said that 9 times before. This time is different. Because of the baby. Because I'm done playing games. I watched him head for the door. This man I'd loved since I was 22. This man I'd sacrificed everything for. This man who was throwing away 8 years like they meant nothing. Jacob. He paused, hand on the doorknob. The first time you asked for a divorce, I cried for 3 days. The second time, I begged you to reconsider. The third time, I threw dishes and screamed until the neighbours called the police. He didn't turn around. By the 5th time, I stopped crying. By the 7th time, I stopped caring. By the 9th time, I realised something important. What's that? Every time I refused to sign, you stayed. Every time I said no, you found a reason to come back. You don't want me to sign those papers, Jacob. You want me to fight for you. He turned slowly, something flickering in his eyes I couldn't read. But here's what you don't understand. I'm not fighting for you anymore. I'm fighting for me. This house, this marriage, this life we built together, it's mine too. And I'm not giving it up because your mistress decided to get pregnant. She's not my mistress. What is she then? She's the woman I love. The words should have hurt more than they did. Maybe I'd finally reached the bottom of my capacity for pain. If that were true, you would have divorced me 3 years ago when she first came back. If that were true, you wouldn't need me to sign papers to be with her. If that were true, you wouldn't be standing in my kitchen every few months begging me to set you free. I'm not begging. Aren't you? We stared at each other across the kitchen that had witnessed 1,000 small intimacies. Morning coffee and late-night conversations, birthday celebrations and quiet Sunday mornings. The slow death of everything we'd once been. I'll be at Victoria's tonight. Of course you will. After he left, I sat in the silence he'd left behind. 10 divorce papers in 3 years, each one a small death, a tiny funeral for the marriage we'd once had. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a number I'd been avoiding for weeks. Dr. Rebecca Hayes, my therapist, had been urging me to consider my options, to think about what I truly wanted instead of just reacting to Jacob's demands. The phone rang twice before she answered. Alison, how are you holding up? He came back this morning, same papers, same demands. But this time there's a complication. What kind of complication? She's pregnant. Silence stretched between us. 4 months pregnant while he's been promising to work on our marriage. How do you feel about that? Strangely calm, like I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop for 3 years and it finally has. What do you want to do? I looked around my kitchen, my house, my life. I want to stop being a victim in my own story. What does that look like for you? I'm not sure yet, but I know I'm tired of being the woman who says no. Maybe it's time to start saying yes. After I hung up, I picked up the divorce papers one more time. 10 attempts in 3 years. Each refusal had given me power over Jacob, but it had also trapped me in this endless cycle of rejection and return. Maybe it was time to try a different approach. Maybe it was time to give Jacob exactly what he'd been asking for. But on my terms, not his. 3 days later, I walked into Harrison & Associates law firm, wearing my best black dress and a smile that could cut glass. The receptionist looked surprised when I asked for Michael Harrison himself. Do you have an appointment, Mrs. Winters? And no, but tell Mr. Harrison that Jacob's wife would like to discuss something that will make his day considerably brighter. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Michael Harrison, Jacob's biggest rival in the city's legal scene. Where Jacob was polished corporate ambition, Michael was old money confidence with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. Mrs. Winters, this is unexpected. I placed a folder on his mahogany desk. I need the best divorce attorney in the city, someone who knows how to play hardball with Jacob Winters. His eyebrows rose slightly. Conflict of interest aside, what makes you think I'd be interested in taking on your husband? Because you've been trying to poach his biggest clients for 2 years. Because he stole the Morrison case from under your nose last month. And because I have information that could destroy his reputation and his firm. Michael leaned back in his leather chair. I'm listening. Jacob's been embezzling from client escrow accounts to fund Victoria Manning's lifestyle. Small amounts, carefully hidden, but traceable if you know where to look. That's a serious accusation. I opened the folder and slid financial documents across his desk. Bank statements, credit card bills, transfer records I'd been quietly collecting for months. Victoria's rent on her downtown penthouse is $4,000 a month. Her car payments, shopping sprees, spa treatments, all paid from accounts Jacob manages. The Hammond Trust Fund alone shows discrepancies of nearly $50,000. Michael studied the papers, his expression shifting from skeptical to intrigued. How did you obtain these? Joint bank accounts are wonderful things. So is having access to Jacob's home office for 8 years. This could end his career. That's the point. He set the documents down carefully. What do you want, Mrs. Winters? Everything. The house, his pension, half his business assets, and spousal support for life. And I want Victoria Manning to know that her fairy tale romance was built on stolen money. And in return, I won't report the embezzlement to the state bar. Jacob gets to keep his license and his freedom, but he'll spend the next decade rebuilding his reputation and paying me back. Michael smiled for the first time since I'd entered his office. You're not what I expected. Jacob's wife, you mean? The quiet little woman who worked double shifts to put him through law school. Something like that. I stood and smoothed my dress. That woman died about 3 years ago. The woman sitting in front of you now learned from the best. I watched Jacob manipulate legal situations for years. Time to use that education. This will get messy. Good. Jacob thrives on control and predictability. Let's give him chaos. Michael stood and extended his hand. Welcome to Harrison and Associates, Mrs. Winters. That evening, I drove to Victoria's penthouse building. The doorman tried to stop me, but I'd learned something valuable from Jacob's world. Confidence opens more doors than keys. Victoria answered her apartment door in silk pajamas, her pregnant belly just beginning to show. She was beautiful in the way magazine covers demanded. Flawless skin, perfect features, the kind of effortless elegance that money bought. Alison, what are you doing here? We need to talk. She stepped aside reluctantly. Her apartment was everything mine wasn't. Modern, expensive, sterile. No photographs, no personal touches, just designer furniture arranged like a showroom. Jacob isn't here. I know. He's at his office, probably trying to figure out how to explain the missing money from the Peterson account. Her face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you do. The money paying for this place, your car, your shopping addiction, it's all stolen, Victoria. She sank onto her white leather couch, one hand instinctively moving to her stomach. That's impossible. Jacob would do anything for you, including destroying his career and risking prison. You're lying. I pulled out copies of the bank statements Michael had returned to me. $53,000 from client accounts in the past 18 months, all traced back to your expenses. Victoria's hands shook as she looked at the papers. I never asked him to... Didn't you? When you needed money for this apartment? When you wanted the Mercedes? When you decided designer maternity clothes were a necessity? I thought he had money saved. Jacob lives paycheck to paycheck like everyone else. His law firm is barely profitable. The only money he had access to belonged to his clients. She started crying then, pretty tears that probably worked on every man she'd ever met. They left me completely unmoved. What do you want from me? I want you to understand what you've done. Jacob is about to lose everything because of you. His reputation, his clients, possibly his freedom. I'll pay it back. With what? Your trust fund is tied up in investments you can't touch for 3 years? Her face crumpled. I love him. No, you love what he can give you. Security, status, someone else's husband to prove you're irresistible. That's not true. Then why did you wait until after your father died to come back? Why not fight for Jacob when you had nothing to offer him? She had no answer because we both knew the truth. I'm filing for divorce next week. Jacob will finally get what he's been begging for. Hope flickered in her red-rimmed eyes. But here's what he doesn't know yet. By the time I'm finished, he'll have nothing left to offer you. No money, no status, no security, just debt and scandal and a reputation that he'll spend years trying to rebuild. You can't do this. I already have. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Victoria? When Jacob finds out about the embezzlement investigation, he's going to blame you. Men like Jacob always need someone else to take responsibility for their mistakes. He loves me. He loved me too, once, until loving me became inconvenient. The drive home gave me time to think about what I'd set in motion. Michael had warned me that revenge was a dish best served cold, but sometimes it needed to be served immediately before you lost your nerve. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Jacob's number. Where are you? I came home and you weren't here. I had errands to run. What kind of errands? I could hear the suspicion in his voice. After 8 years of marriage, he knew my patterns, my routines, my predictable responses to his provocations. The kind that don't concern you anymore. Alison, what did you do? I decided you were right. Our marriage is over. Silence stretched between us. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful. You're ready to sign the papers? I'm ready to do something better. I'm filing my own divorce petition. What does that mean? It means I'm done playing defense, Jacob. Time to see how you handle being on the other side of a legal battle. I hung up before he could respond and sat in my car, staring at the house I'd called home for 8 years. Tomorrow, everything would change. The quiet, compliant wife Jacob thought he knew would disappear forever. In her place would be someone he'd helped create through 3 years of betrayal and manipulation. Someone who'd learned that playing fair only worked when both sides followed the same rules. Someone who was finally ready to win. 2 weeks after I'd filed my petition, Jacob stormed into our house at midnight, his usually perfect appearance dishevelled. His tie hung loose, his shirt wrinkled, and his eyes held the wild look of a man watching his world collapse. You destroyed everything. I looked up from the legal briefs I was reviewing. Michael had been thorough, every financial irregularity documented, every client account discrepancy highlighted in damning detail. I thought you'd be celebrating. You're finally getting your divorce. 3 of my biggest clients fired me today. The Peterson family is threatening criminal charges. Consequences have a way of catching up, don't they? He slammed his briefcase on the table, scattering my papers. You vindictive bitch! You knew this would ruin me. I warned you 10 times that I wouldn't sign your papers. You should have listened. This isn't about the divorce anymore. You're trying to destroy my entire life. I gathered my documents calmly. Your life was built on lies and stolen money. I just helped the truth come to light. Victoria's threatening to leave me. Smart woman. Sinking ships aren't very romantic. his face contorted with rage and desperation. "She's carrying my child. Your problem, not mine. The baby deserves a father who can provide for them." "Then you should have thought about that before you started stealing from your clients." Jacob slumped into a chair, the fight draining out of him. "What do you want, Alison? Money? The house? Just tell me what it'll take to make this stop." "It's too late for negotiations. You made your choice 3 years ago when you decided I was disposable." "I never said you were disposable. You didn't have to. Every divorce paper, every night at Victoria's, every lie about working late, you made it clear I meant nothing to you. That's not true, isn't it? When did you last ask about my day, my dreams, my feelings? When did you last see me as anything more than an obstacle to your happiness?" He had no answer because we both knew he'd stopped seeing me as a person years ago. "The state bar is conducting a formal investigation. My malpractice insurance won't cover criminal charges." "Then you better hope the Petersons are feeling forgiving. You could stop this. Tell them it was a misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Jacob. It was theft." He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "I'll lose my license. Everything I worked for gone." "Everything we worked for. I put you through law school, remember? While you were studying, I was waitressing 12-hour shifts and eating ramen noodles so you could chase your dreams. I know what you sacrificed." "No, you don't. You forgot the moment you passed the bar exam. I became the embarrassing wife who didn't fit your new image. Victoria understands my world. Victoria understands your bank account. Wait until that's gone and see how much she understands." The next morning brought news that accelerated everything. Michael called with an update that made my coffee taste like victory. "Jacob's firm lost the Morrison account. That's 60% of their annual revenue gone." "How long before they fold?" 6 months, maybe less. "His partners are already distancing themselves." "And the criminal investigation?" "The district attorney is reviewing the case. Jacob's cooperation might earn him a plea deal, but his career is over either way." That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I went shopping for myself. Not groceries or household necessities, but clothes that made me feel powerful. Red dresses that demanded attention. High heels that added authority to my step. Jewellery that caught the light and reflected my newfound confidence. At the salon, I traded my mousy brown hair for honey blonde highlights and had my nails painted crimson. The woman in the mirror looked like someone who could command a boardroom or break hearts with equal ease. "New look for a new life?" my stylist asked. "Something like that." Walking through downtown, I felt eyes following me. Men noticed. Women envied. For the first time in years, I existed as more than just Jacob's wife. The restaurant where I'd worked all those years ago was still there, though under new management. I stopped in for lunch and found myself talking to the owner about catering opportunities for corporate events. "We're looking for someone to handle our high-end clients. The pay is excellent, and you'd basically be running your own division." "I might be interested." "Do you have experience with event planning?" 8 years of managing a lawyer's social calendar. I know how to handle demanding people and impossible deadlines. By the time I left, I had a job offer and a sense of purpose I'd forgotten existed. That evening, Victoria called. "We need to talk." Her voice sounded hollow, defeated. The pregnancy hormones probably weren't helping her emotional state. "About what?" "Jacob's been acting crazy, drinking too much, staying out all night. He keeps talking about how you've ruined everything." "I haven't ruined anything. I've simply stopped enabling him." "He says you're trying to destroy him." "Jacob's destroying himself. I'm just refusing to help him clean up the mess anymore." "I'm scared, Alison. He talks about you constantly. It's like he's obsessed." Something cold settled in my stomach. What kind of talks? How you were the perfect wife until you turned vindictive. How he never appreciated what he had. How he's lost everything that mattered. Everything that mattered. That's what scares me. He doesn't talk about me or the baby that way. It's always about you. After Victoria hung up, I sat in my empty house thinking about the psychology of men like Jacob. They wanted what they couldn't have and destroyed what they took for granted. For 3 years, he'd pushed me away. But now that I was truly gone, I'd become valuable again. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw you downtown today. You look incredible. Coffee sometime? Alex. Alex Turner, Jacob's former law school roommate who'd moved to California after graduation. We'd been friends back then, before Jacob decided my friendships with other men were inappropriate for a lawyer's wife. I typed back, I'd like that. 3 days later, Alex flew in for a long weekend. He was everything Jacob had become afraid of being. Successful without arrogance, confident without cruelty, interested in my thoughts beyond how they affected him. We had dinner at the city's most expensive restaurant, the kind of place Jacob had always said was too flashy for people like us. Alex listened when I talked about my new job, my plans for independence, my excitement about reclaiming my identity. You seem different from how I remember you. Different how? Stronger. More yourself, if that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. I forgot who I was for a while. Jacob's loss. Jacob's choice. That night, Alex walked me to my door like a gentleman. His kiss was soft, respectful. Everything Jacob's had become perfunctory and obligated. I'm staying until Tuesday. Would you like to have breakfast tomorrow? I'd love that. As I watched him drive away, I realized something profound had shifted. For the first time in 3 years, I'd spent an evening focused on my own happiness instead of Jacob's betrayals. The next morning brought the news I'd been expecting. Jacob's law firm was filing for bankruptcy. His partners had voted him out, and the criminal charges were moving forward. But more importantly, I was moving forward too, into a life where I mattered, where my dreams had value, where I was more than just someone's discarded wife. Jacob had spent 3 years trying to divorce me. Now I was finally ready to divorce him. 6 months later, I stood in the courthouse wearing a cream-coloured dress that hugged my growing belly. At 5 months pregnant, I glowed with the confidence of a woman who'd reclaimed her power and found love on her own terms. Jacob sat across the courtroom, hollow-eyed and broken. His expensive suits had been replaced by discount store clothes. The criminal charges had been dropped in exchange for full restitution and community service, but his law license was gone forever. Victoria had left him the moment his bank accounts emptied, taking their unborn child to her mother's estate in Connecticut. All rise for the Honourable Judge Patricia Wells. Michael squeezed my hand as we stood. After months of legal manoeuvring, today would finally end my marriage to Jacob Winters. In the matter of Winters versus Winters, I have reviewed all submitted documents and testimony. Mrs. Winters, you are awarded the marital home, all joint assets, and spousal support of $5,000 monthly for 10 years. Jacob's lawyer, a public defender who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, didn't even object. There was nothing left to fight for. Furthermore, Mr. Winters will pay all legal fees and court costs. The marriage is hereby dissolved. The gavel's bang echoed like a gunshot, officially ending 8 years of my life. Outside the courthouse, Jacob caught up to me as Alex helped me into our car. "Alison, wait!" I turned to face my ex-husband. The man who'd once seemed larger than life now looked small, defeated. "Congratulations on getting everything you wanted." I wanted a husband who loved me. I settled for justice instead. His eyes dropped to my rounded belly. Is it his? Does it matter? I just I never thought you'd move on so quickly. Quickly. Jacob, you moved on 3 years before our marriage ended. I just caught up. Alex stepped protectively closer, his hand resting on my lower back. Are we done here? Jacob's jaw clenched at the possessive gesture. She was my wife for 8 years, and now she's carrying my child. Time moves forward, not backward. You don't know her like I do. Alex smiled. You're right. I know her as the successful businesswoman who's opening her own catering company. You knew her as the woman you tried to erase. 3 weeks later, my phone rang at midnight. Victoria's name flashed on the screen. Alison, I'm sorry to call so late, but I didn't know who else to contact. What's wrong? It's Jacob. He's been calling me obsessively, showing up at my mother's house. He keeps saying he made a mistake, that he should have fought harder to keep you. I sat up in bed, Alex stirring beside me. What exactly is he saying? That you were the only good thing in his life, that he destroyed his real family for a fantasy. He's begging me to help him win you back. And what did you tell him? That you're pregnant with another man's child and happily engaged? That seemed to make him angrier. A chill ran down my spine. Angry? How? He started ranting about how Alex stole you, how no one appreciated what you meant to him until it was too late. Alison, I think he's having some kind of breakdown. The next morning I called Michael. I think Jacob might be unstable. Victoria's concerned about his behaviour. What kind of behaviour? Obsessive calls, showing up uninvited, talking about winning me back. I'll file for a restraining order immediately. But we were too late. That afternoon, as I left my new catering office, Jacob was waiting by my car. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes bloodshot from drinking or crying or both. We need to talk. We have nothing to discuss, Jacob. I made a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. Yes, you did. Several of them, actually. I lost everything trying to leave you, and I lost everything again when you left me. That's called consequences. He stepped closer, and I caught the smell of alcohol on his breath. I love you, Alison. I never stopped loving you. You have a funny way of showing love. Victoria was nothing compared to you. A distraction, a midlife crisis, I don't know. But you were my foundation, my home. I was your victim. There's a difference. Please, just give me a chance to prove I've changed. You had 8 years to prove that. You chose not to. His face crumpled, and for a moment, he looked like the young man I'd fallen in love with in college. I can't live without you. You're going to have to learn. What about our history? What about everything we built together? You demolished it yourself, piece by piece, divorce paper by divorce paper. Alex appeared then, having followed me from the office when I didn't return his call. Alison, is everything okay? Jacob's expression shifted from desperation to rage. The man who destroyed my marriage, the man who helped me rebuild my life, I corrected. She was mine first. Alex stepped between us. She's not property, and she's made her choice. A choice she wouldn't have had to make if you hadn't interfered. I interfered. You spent 3 years trying to divorce her for another woman. I just reminded her she deserved better. Jacob lunged forward, but alcohol and heartbreak made him clumsy. Alex caught his wrist easily. Walk away, Jacob. You've done enough damage. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Security arrived then, called by my assistant, who'd witnessed the confrontation. As they escorted Jacob away, he looked back at me with something that might have been love or might have been possession. I'd learned the difference too late to matter. 1 year later, I stood in the nursery of the house that was finally completely mine. Our daughter slept peacefully in Alex's arms while he hummed softly. Any regrets? He asked, catching me watching them. About which part? All of it. The divorce, the drama, the long road to get here. I looked around the room we decorated together. Soft pastels and hand-painted murals. A rocking chair where I'd nurse our daughter. Shelves waiting for the books we'd read to her. Jacob taught me something important. What's that? That love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go. Alex smiled and kissed the top of our daughter's head. Think he ever figured that out? I hope so. For his sake. Through the window, I could see the garden I'd planted years ago, now overgrown and wild, but somehow more beautiful for its freedom. 10 divorce papers in 3 years. 43 rejections that had kept me trapped in a marriage that was already over. It took signing one set of papers to finally set us both free. The difference was I'd learned how to build something new from the ashes. Jacob was still learning how to stop looking back.